The Business of Agriculture podcast is brought to you by Land Trust. Did you know sportsmen spend over $5 billion annually in hunter and angler access fees? Land Trust is a platform that connects sportsmen with farmers and ranchers like you who have untapped profits just by providing access to their land. Go to landtrust.com/BOA, as in Business of Agriculture, to see how much you might add to your bottom line.
Well, greetings and welcome to another episode of the Business of Agriculture podcast. It's me, your host, Damian Mason. You already heard that in the introduction. This episode is brought to you by my good friends at Land Trust. Also, I want to let you know that if you are a listener, I love that. Go ahead, SoundCloud, Stitchers, iTunes, Apple, wherever you get your audio podcast, please enjoy it there and share it with your non-ag and agricultural friends. But also go on YouTube, the Damian Mason channel. Just type in Damian Mason channel and hit subscribe. It'll really help me out a lot. More people will see and hear great messages and content like you're going to catch right here on the Business of Agriculture podcast. Got an interesting show for you today because I've got two equipment guys that also bring a big breadth of knowledge and background from agriculture in general. They are with Hudson, a John Deere dealership ownership group in a few states. They're going to tell you all about that. But they're also guys that have been around agriculture a lot. So we're going to talk about what's happening in machinery, what's happening in farm equipment, and what that might mean for the industry in general. You know, trends that we're seeing there, size, horsepower, environmental issues, supply chain issues, what's happening at the farm level. Also, this gives us a read on farm finance. So I've got my man, Matt Ramage, right here is the VP of Sales with Hudson. And then we got Carl Hubner. Carl is the VP of Precision Agriculture. So welcome to the show, Mr. Matt Ramage.
Thank you so much.
And if you are watching this, you'll see that we're in an unused a meeting room here in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, where I'm going to be the speaker for their session that's later on today to close out their meeting of all of their managers. So we stole away a little moment here and we said, let's just talk about equipment. So Matt, give me real quickly the lowdown on what Hudson is.
Sure. So Hudson Incorporated is a privately owned John Deere dealer. We have 12 stores in what we call Hudson South, and then we have 18 stores in what we call Hudson, Michigan. So,
All right, so only John Deere?
Only John Deere.
Any short line stuff?
We do carry a little bit of short line stuff, mostly like MacDon heads, maybe some tillage equipment, not much of anything else.
All right, and then Carl, your role, Precision Ag, that's something that we never even heard about. You know, Precision Ag was something that's a term that came about in the last, decade or so? Talk to me about what your role is there at Hudson.
Right. So thanks for having me on. And you're right. Precision Ag has come a long way in a short period of time. And the ground that we're going to cover over the next 5 years won't be anything like what we've covered in the past 10. So mostly the role that I'm in comes around this term that John Deere's coined called mainstreaming, where we really want to focus on the newest, latest, greatest of equipment and how are we building this into the business so service can service it and sales can sell it and everyone can operate effectively on this piece of equipment in the shortest period of time possible.
Mainstreaming. Okay, I like it. All right, so lots changed. Let's go ahead and just go from the very beginning. Okay, you didn't come from, neither of you guys grew up like some people that are in, iron. They were born like, Dad had a dealership and they were in there when they were 4 years old, pushing their little toy tractors around, and that's it. Neither of you guys came from this business.
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, we both have a history of agronomy.
Okay.
And what are these agronomy people doing in an equipment dealership?
Yeah, so real quick on you, since we have a common friend, Rob Syke, who's been on this very podcast multiple times, the crazy Albertan entrepreneur, agricultural entrepreneur as he were, had a company called AgVisor, or at Agritrend before that, and you were an Agritrend person.
Absolutely. Carl and I both served a period of time with the Agritrend folks.
All right, so you are an agronomy person turned, always been around ag your whole career.
We have.
Both of you. And then you turned into machinery people. When?
Believe it or not, when John Deere decided that there was value in communicating increased yields through agronomy, and the term coined by John Deere back in 2011 was FarmSight. And so they believed that you could create, and for lack of a better term, stickiness with the customer if you could provide agronomic advice that resulted in return on investment then you could essentially have your customers buy out the other customers, right? I mean, the other producers in that area. So that was the philosophy, and we basically just brought that to a dealership level.
Okay, so when you guys came, how long have you guys been with Hudson?
I've been there 6 years, Carl, 11.
Yeah, so this was really a John Deere initiative that said we got to do more than just sell horsepower. We got to do more than just sell green paint, which they're pretty damn effective at that. But then they said we're going to talk about how we can actually do something different at the farm level. So what's that look like? Farm site?
Right. So originally, and keep in mind, in the transition of becoming a technology company, there's many companies that have, had many different attempts at it. And, I'd say Farm Site was kind of the first draft one. And that is, turned into Operations Center, which it is now. It's free for customers to use. And I think really what that looks like now is understanding, hey, we have good products, and we're really good at product support, or we even try to be very good at product support, even when we don't mean to be, even through mistakes. But really, we're going to have to transition away from just products and into solutions, and understanding that with the technology options on this equipment now, if you're not built into the solution or how this is an effective solution for your farm and willing to change some of the culture or bad cultures on your farm, or be able to make some of the decisions that this piece of machinery may be able to help you with from the data it's collecting, then it wasn't really an effective sell for you in the first place. So it's more of a solution sell, and that's where we're trying to really reorganize ourselves as a dealership in a lot of ways.
All right, let's talk about machinery in general, since you're both ag people your whole career, but newer to the machinery, meaning you didn't grow up in it like some of these kids did. My observation, I talk about it in my book, Food Fear, which is the ag book. I talk about the fact that machinery has done one thing from the time from the time we invented it, but certainly from the time I was around. An Oliver 1850 got delivered to our farm when I was about a kindergartner. It was like a 6-year-old tractor then. It's about a 120 horsepower tractor. And that was not too uncommon. Didn't have a cab. And then the Case 1370 showed up at our farm in about 1978. And it's like, yeah, man, this thing's pretty deluxe. And that looks like a quaint little piece of equipment today.
Sure.
Because machinery has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I predict that it's going to start getting smaller and smaller as it becomes autonomous. But give me your thoughts about the history and then where we go with machinery, Matt.
Sure. So, and you're exactly right. You started with a 85 horsepower open station tractor. You progressed to a 120 horsepower Case 1370 with power shift transmission, lots of features and capability. The trend is there. The trend is to continue to get bigger with more and more creature comforts. Obviously, we've reduced a lot of the fatigue alone just by going to auto steer. Now it's about improving efficiencies of that machine with larger size, larger pieces of equipment. I foresee in the next 10 years the trend towards autonomy. That is a labor issue. We continue to struggle at the producer level, finding people that are capable of running the technology and having the time to invest. A lot of people want 8 hours in a shower now. They don't want to invest the time, even with the larger machinery, to spend all day or 14 hours or 16 hours trying to get a crop in the ground. I think the trend is there to go to autonomy. Obviously, that would require less horsepower and more 24-hour a day type of technology.
Yeah, I see that happening also. All right, so you've been out here and you're on the precision side. We're going to get to that, but let's just go big picture. I've predicted that we're going to get smaller because I think that these huge machines, first off, they break down the bridges. Our roads aren't set up to have a 30-ton machine going across them. You can't fit them down the road. Also, they squish the soil. Some of these huge machines. And it's because of efficiencies that they're so big, Carl. But if you get to where it's autonomous and you can have a fleet of them, is it smart? Is it true that they'll get smaller like I predict?
Yeah, so great question. And this is one that is really speculated on a lot as far as where this is going to go. And I guess the best way to say it is the market's going to decide it. I think there's a lot of people right now that there's a lot of venture capital dollars that are going into this, and there's a tremendous amount of new tech startup companies that are pouring money into this. And I think the best part about that is with this much excitement around it right now that it's like ships with a tide. Everything's going to rise. And so what I mean by that is this. machines are going to get smarter. So even if you're a buyer and you don't care anything about full autonomy, you are going to benefit from the money that is coming in right now because of advances in technology. Your machine is going to get smarter through software.
Right.
The advances in sensors, the advances in software code and developers that are coming in now.
Yeah, so what you're saying is even the person that's not the early adopter is still benefiting exponentially because the person that's in front of them as the early adopter is bringing on 9 new things, 6 of which are going to also rising tide floats all boats.
No different than NASA, right? I mean, look at all the spin-off, products that they created out of that, right? And so when you have this
Tang, would you say Tang?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but yeah, there you go.
And you have to be our age to even remember that because
that's right.
Kids listening right now, what the hell's Tang? Okay,
that's right. It kept the scurry away though, or scurvy. There you go. So I don't question. Even when you look at the data in terms of customers that are running 400 horsepower tractors, what percentage of that horsepower are they actually using and, of that machine? And it's very rare that machine gets peaked. But yet you still do have a lot of customers that are saying more power, more power, more power, when really that should be more of a data-driven decision instead of I believe I need this.
Wait, you're saying there's still the farm guy out there it's all about bullocks and testosterone. If the neighbor has a 500 horse tractor, he needs a 550.
So if you look at all industries, and let's just talk about vehicles, okay? Look at what an EcoBoost can do right now in a Ford F-150 compared to what the V8s can do. Those things fly.
I have a Ford F-150, the 3.5 liter EcoBoost, and I know that there's the side of somebody that would say, "Why didn't you get the bigger engine?" I'm like, well, hell, it already is more productive and more capable than the 30-year ago version that had the 351 or 355, whatever the Ford version of a 350 is. Okay, let's talk about these machines. You go to the Indiana State Fair, Matt, and it used to be they would always, a couple of the dealerships around central Indiana would stick those machines out there, and then just to shock the suburbanites, they'd put a price tag in one of those combines.
Absolutely.
And, back when you were a kid, it's like, holy hell, they're wanting $90,000 for that. That's worth more than my house. Yeah. Right now, a combine's pushing $500,000 with both heads, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so
the general rule of thumb, Damian, is about $1,000 a horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't matter what we talk about, that $1,000 a horsepower. So when we talk about a new X9, 1,100, 750 horsepower, about $750,000 is the farm gate price. It's not the list price, but that's about what it's going to the farm gate at.
Okay, so let's talk about real dollars and real. Okay, what about if I wanted to buy a John Deere 4020 in 1967 when they were being produced? Did I pay an equivalent amount in real dollars back then? Have they gotten more expensive? We know they've gotten more expensive. Have they gotten more expensive in real dollars? I would say they probably have.
Probably 10% or something like that.
But do we make up for that because they're doing 3 times more than they used to do?
Absolutely. The return on investment is unbelievable. When we are looking at, for example, an X9 combine, just the number of acres that you can put through that machine on an hourly basis, it changes. It's a whole paradigm shift as to what amount of time you need to produce and harvest a crop.
Go ahead, Carl. Go ahead and grab that. But you're talking about holding value. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. It's a tremendous investment, right? And so if you're going to invest in something, you need to invest in something that is going to retain the value in it, right? And so that's something that you have to foresee, and these aren't just investments that you're holding on to for 6 months or something like that. A lot of these are investments that people are going to hold on for an extended period of time, or maybe 2-3 years or something like that before they roll into another one after they get what they consider to be a significant amount of hours. And so it goes from not probable to impossible to move into a machine where the depreciation is going to far exceed your ability to cover the acres to afford it.
So what I think we're also talking about, because, the old timers are going to sit there and talk about how much it is, but the smart old timers also realize, it's more on even a per dollar on a per real dollar basis than I paid for my Oliver 1850, John Deere 4020, 856 International, whatever you want to put out there. But the point is, you're also getting a shitload more productivity out of that thing.
It's a cost per acre. Everything is. It's a cost per acre. I mean, when we talk about yield, I mean, it's down to the kernel. I mean, what is that kernel worth? How many kernels can you produce on a stalk? How many kernels can you produce on an acre? And then how do you offset the expense of producing that kernel It is absolutely a return on investment decision, and there is a significant amount of return on investment with these larger machines.
Now you're just talking about the sales process. So you're out there dealing with these people. I mean, you've got 14 stores, and you cover a pretty good geography. You're in Kentucky,
Illinois, Tennessee, and Indiana.
Okay, so you've got some pretty good geography, and I see the fleet of Hudson branded white pickup trucks in the parking lot out here outside this convention center. So you've got people, boots on the ground.
Absolutely.
Tell me about selling to these people. What's it look like now? I mean, I have my hobby farm, and I rent my ground out, and I know what it's like, but I want to hear about it from your perspective. You go out there to the farm. Is it even come down to kicking tires and haggling around, or is it really more about consultative? I mean, I can't imagine it's not used car sales anymore, is it?
No, that is why Carl's team is such a big part of the decision-making process. It is 100% consultative selling. You are always trying to foresee the future needs of an operation. It could be diversity of crops, diversity of business interests. We see every day people saying, hey, I've done pretty well, I've made some money, I've acquired some more land, but I also have other business interests. Now I need to improve my efficiencies on producing a crop just because my other business interests are pulling me in a different direction. So it's 100% consultative.
Okay, so what's the selling process look like? Because like I said, this ain't used car sales. This ain't out there kicking tires and all that. Granted, they're shopping around. They're on their phones. They know what's going on. What's it look like? Now it's them saying, it looks like I need this many horsepower and I need this kind of technology and I need this. And then, boom, you talk about a lot of stuff probably beyond the engine.
Yeah, so I'd say the simplest, high-level way to say it is, Matt's going to focus a lot on the asset value and the return and the cost, per acre and horsepower, which he referred to earlier. And building the partnership with that customer and helping them to understand how we're going to meet their need from a service aspect, but also an employee need aspect, okay? So when we talk about mainstreaming, which is the word we threw out earlier, that's not only through our dealership, but that's through our customer as well. And so we have to take the product that's coming from Deere and we have to help build it into the culture of their business as well. If their operator does not believe in the value of that technology or doesn't know how to use it effectively, then that's not a significant value to us, right? So a lot of it is understanding the need from Matt and his team of placing the product correctly in the hands, and then coming up with effective ways to train these operators to make sure that they believe and have faith in what the machine is doing. Because a lot of it is, we go back to the difference of the 40-20 or whatever, is trusting the display. And having faith in it and believing like it is. I've got some friends that are pilots and things like that, and they try to get IFR rated, which means you can fly through the clouds, right? Yeah. And it's no different than that in a lot of ways. If that makes a connection with some people listening, is you have to believe and have faith in what it is telling you to know that the data is making decisions for you that are believable, and you validate those in the field, but. You have to trust, and we're getting into a point now where you have to trust that the machine is capable of making very educated decisions based upon the data points it's collecting. And that takes some time in the seat, and that takes some understanding and some validating in the field for them to see what's actually happening.
By the way, we're talking to Carl Hubner and Matt Ramage with Hudson Inc. They are John Deere dealers in 4 states. And we're talking about technology, and I think it's a good time to bring this up, dear listener and viewer. I've got a new project I'm working on, and if you are a progressive, successful-minded farmer, I would like you to check this out. There's a group called Extreme Ag. ExtremeAg.farm is their website, and they have trials going on all the time with all sorts of new products, and they're experimenting with new things. These are yield-setting, successful, progressive, generally large-scale farmers, and they enlisted me, and they said, Damian, we want you to help tell our story and talk about some of the great things we're doing here with some of these product trials. So you'd be looking for the Extreme Ag Cutting the Curve podcast, which I am hosting and producing on their behalf, and in the meantime, go to extremeag.farm. So stay tuned. It's something that I'm doing specifically for production agriculture, so if you are a farmer, I want you to check this out. So extremeag.farm is our website, and I'll be hosting and producing, which I've already been doing, and we're going to start releasing those here very, very soon, or maybe even by the time you're hearing this podcast, they are released. So stay tuned. Anyway, let's talk about now the future. Before we get to the future, let's talk about the current. Things got crazy. I drive by the General Motors pickup truck plant when I landed the Fort Wayne Airport on my way to my farm there in Huntington, Indiana. They have trucks literally stacked like cordwood around that property. I mean, and it's because I'm told the damn truck is made. Yeah. It's lacking one thing. Yeah. And what's it lacking?
Yeah. We've heard transmission control units, engine control units.
Chips.
We've heard all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, some sort of electrical, some sort of electronic thing. There's something that them trucks need, and those trucks, honest to God, thousands and thousands and thousands of trucks are sitting there, and I'm like, okay, they're made. Whatever they're waiting on, no wonder we got a glut. Same thing happening with farm machinery?
Absolutely.
So you've got stuff that needs a chip or a wafer or something? What's going on?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's really a semiconductor shortage. But it doesn't just start with the fact that there's not enough semiconductors. Everybody looks around and says, well, just make some more semiconductors. I mean, how hard of a process can this be? Right. But it goes back to the ingredients to bake the cake. You have to have the ingredients to bake the cake. So in the event of semiconductor shortage, this goes all the way back to 12 months ago when COVID was really set in and the pandemic was affecting the globe, and all these emerging market economies like India, China, Malaysia, those folks that depend on the batter to make the cake, they weren't getting it from the mines. The mines even shut down. The rare earth mines that manufacture all those critical rare earth metals to manufacture semiconductors.
So what's the impact at the farm level? I need a piece of machinery. I can't get it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Is it really? Is it?
It is that.
I mean, your 14 stores. Are they sitting vacant?
So we've been lucky. We had a lot of stuff ordered in advance. Some of that stuff is finally getting sourced and manufactured, but we are selling it off the truck. Yes, when you go to the store looks vacant. Looks like we're out of business because everything that comes in is pre-sold. Most cases, it's pre-sold 9 to 12 months in advance right now. And, the availability of units is unbelievable. So
this happened in World War II. If your parents were World War II era folks like mine were, they talked about, my God, then it got to where they wanted a pickup truck. Yeah. You needed a pickup truck, right. And you didn't get one until 3 years after the war ended.
Absolutely.
Something like that. Mm-hmm. Are we 2 and 3 years out from the machinery? Because surely we can ramp up the John Deere manufacturing facilities, can't we?
Yeah, they've got the capacity. They have the people to do the work. As a matter of fact, John Deere is actually letting some of their employees go to other vendors to work like a sabbatical, to take their vacation from John Deere, take a paid vacation, and go to a vendor that needs the help, that needs to manufacture a semiconductor or a chip or a transmission control module, whatever may be the fact. But I do not think that we are 3 years away from this disequilibrium getting back to an equilibrium. I think we're probably only a year away.
Okay. By the way, we're listening. In case you're listening to this, we are recording this at the end of July 2021. So remember that Matt Ramage said that. You can look him up if he's wrong.
So you can. Yeah, my forecast is no later than November of 2022.
Which is still a hell of a long way out there. You're talking 15, 16 months.
It's a full crop.
It's a full crop year, and then a lot of angst. Okay. What else is happening out here in the future? Because, we got an administration here in the United States, and this is kind of happening the globe over. Environment. Climate crisis, create a crisis. Fuel. We use a boatload of fuel. Granted, the machines are more efficient on a per acre, per horsepower basis, right, than they were. That John Deere 4020 everybody loves. Was it efficient?
Yes. So there were a lot of efficiencies with a 4020.
Are we better now?
Oh yeah, much better, much better. Sure. There were a lot of efficiencies back then, and we've evolved and obviously made horsepower efficiencies and hydraulic power efficiencies exponentially better. But certainly there were some efficiencies then that we had overcome from the early 20s.
Okay, so we still use a lot of diesel. Getting down that field, we still use a lot of horsepower, and then we used to put DEF in it. Is that something we still have to do? This whole what's this diesel exhaust fluid something? Right. What's it look like from an environmental standpoint? What's going to happen? What are we going to do proactively, and what are we going to do out of regulatory issues, Matt? Carl.
There you go. So, look, I think we have to be wise and make more data-driven decisions in regards to our true horsepower need. And really just look at the data and see if we're even using all the horsepower we even have in the machines that we currently own. I think some of it too just gets back into understanding some basics in agronomy on the farms. We have a tremendous amount of no-till around here, and that fits some farms very well. There's a tremendous amount of cover crops around here, and that fits some farms very well. And so I think it's making those style decisions, and also understanding that, given you teed it up with, saying the current administration and kind of the push that we're currently having right now, I believe it is either past the House and going to the Senate or vice versa. I could be wrong in regards to, paying in regards to, carbon.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so I forget the name of the bill right now. It slipped my mind. But so this will be a hurdle we're going to have to overcome and figure out what this looks like in the details and how that's going to be linked back to farms and marrying that up with your actual as-applied data that you created off that farm and, validating all this data that's come through, especially when there's a lot of farms that, they don't even have boundaries for these farms because they never took the time to do that. So when we talk about today, not only is, there's a deficit in product, right? And there's issues there. But if you want to really take care of yourself today and you want to make sure you're ready for whatever may come, if you're interested in, in carbon credit dollars or anything along those lines, boundarying your acres and making sure through good boundaries, either RTK or something equivalent, and making sure that your family farm tree structure is healthy and you're using that.
All right, let's talk about the fact that, and he's out here in sales, so Matt, you can take the microphone on this one. All right, we used to go out there, moldboard plow, and disc. Maybe disc another time.
Yeah.
Field cultivator. Sure. Maybe field cultivate another time. And we plant. And we go out there and cultivate through the rows. And we'd spray a couple of times. We pretty well drove that field to where it was about like a road.
Oh, absolutely.
Now we're pretty darn good. We're really smart about staying off of that ground. These old timers still like to recreational till. I don't know why. I guess they just like to smell of turned dirt or wasting money or eroding and destroying their soil structure. But anyway, I'm fairly against all the tillage that's being done. But the point is, even those that are doing recreational tillage are putting a lot less hours on that piece of equipment. Is that why now it's more about climate programs and precision programs and modules and the technology? Because we're not just turning the hours on the equipment so much?
It does have a big bearing on it, without a doubt. The managing the soil health, is what it all comes back to. And you can compact soil. And people say, but I run track equipment. I don't compact the soil.
Right.
But at the same time, they're the first one in the field mudding up everything and compacting the soil with track equipment. You can do it with any type of equipment. But it all comes down to the environment that exists in that soil and that soil health. And that's one of the efficiencies that certainly are gained by this bigger equipment. The bigger equipment has a bigger footprint. Mm-hmm. We talk about it all day long, every day. What's your tire choice, right? Mm-hmm. What's your ballast choice? It's not just about horsepower. It's how much weight you're actually putting
per square inch.
Per square inch, that's right.
What about the fact that you're not putting the hours on the piece of equipment? I know farm guys are like, hell, this would have had 3 times the hours on it 35, 40 years ago the way we used to farm. So that equipment does last a little longer, but you guys are making money and still serving the customer by adding a bunch more stuff. So
a bunch more stuff. That's right. The technology is where it's at. So we have customers that will give a testimonial today that they used to have to run 2 sprayers to spray their farm. Now, with the advantage of nozzle control technology,
right,
they have reduced 1 complete sprayer. That's not just a sprayer depreciating. That's a man and a sprayer payment. So the technology is changing so much.
Or a woman. Remember, we're very open-minded here on the Business of Agriculture podcast. We're not about gender specific. Whatever. It's okay. Yes. Hey, let's talk about then the technology. The extreme ag guys. I had an episode I was recording with them for their Cutting the Curve podcast that they're going to be rolling out here. And he's a smart guy, 10,000 acre operator. He's very precision oriented. And he said, used to be that if the yield monitor wasn't working, I didn't give a damn. That machine's got to go. When it's time to harvest, get this stuff harvested, get it in the bin because we're going to have weather. And he said, that machine now will not go because that data is so important because it starts with yield monitor, and then that's how we extrapolate it and do the overlay on nutrients and on all that. I don't know that that's still the way most farm operators think. What do you think?
No, it's probably not the way that most farm operators think. We do have a lot of those, you've already said it, early adopters that are on that type of a plan where they want to make sure that all the data layers are there.
Yep.
But with the technology offering from John Deere, we do not require all that stuff to be in place for you to go ahead and make that machine work. And beautifully enough, now with the shortage of some of the technology equipment that we should have and we don't have, we're probably going to see some units go to the field harvest 2021 that will not have all the data collection stuff.
Yeah. All right, my man Carl, I got a question for you. We talked about environmental stuff, and we're more efficient, the engines are, et cetera. Electric vehicles are coming. Even California, they don't even have electricity in California. The citizens have to suffer through forced brownouts, and they can't even have their air conditioning on. But that's the same state that says that in 14 years they're going to mandate electric cars. Are we going to see electric tractors? It's a big difference.
Yeah, so I think everything crawls before it walks and it runs. It's no different than full autonomy, right? I think we have this grand, idea of we're going to go full autonomy tomorrow, but there has to be some graduation process into this to some extent. For example, if your boundaries aren't correct, the machine doesn't know where to go, and everything is based on some extent to machine learning, right?
Yep.
And graduating into that. So now back into the question of electric. Most likely, it'll probably go with electric hubs to assist. So for traction and things like that, with a power generation unit, kind of a front wheel assist type thing, something like that that's more effective and probably far more efficient. But full on electric day one, most likely not. It could graduate into that eventually once that becomes.
So you're
more
seeing
effective.
some electric components, some electric aspect to it from an efficiency standpoint, but it's not going to happen anytime in our lifetime or anytime soon.
No, I'm not saying it wouldn't happen in our lifetime. I believe.
Well, it depends on how long you're going to live, Carl. How long you going to live?
I mean,
you look like you look.
I just want to outlive you, Damian. That's all I know.
The thing is, you look healthy, but if you keep sassing me, your lifespan goes down. That's the thing.
You never know. It's a card game. We're just playing poker here.
Consolidation. Biden administration comes out here a couple weeks ago and says there's anti-competitive issues in these 5 industries. We're going to smack them down. And agriculture is one of the 5 industries.
Sure.
And I don't know anti-competitive, but I would say there's certainly consolidation of producers. And I don't mean of the farm producers. I mean of even the products we need. 4 big chemical companies, 4 big grain handling companies, 4 or 5 big meat packers control 90+% of all the meat processing in the United States. And then you got Case New Holland, and you got John Deere, and you got AGCO. Mm-hmm. Really global companies.
That's right.
But by golly, if you want to buy a tractor, those 3 have a pretty big amount of the market share. Are you guys going to get broken up?
Yeah, I don't see that.
I
just don't. I do see that there is some probably unnecessary consolidation. But when you look at the most recent history, just with John Deere's attempted acquisition of Precision Planting,
right.
I think there will be more blockage of any additional consolidation.
Sure, but they're not going to go ahead and break it. We're not going to be Teddy Roosevelt trust busters where we're going to take John Deere and crack it into 9 companies.
Sure.
What about, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't mind speaking on that just real quickly. Look, that's in every industry, consolidation to a lot of extents. When you look at technology companies in general, how many cell phone companies can you buy a cell phone from today?
Yeah, about 3 or 4.
Okay, there you go, right? So also of those companies that have made it in our large scale, of those companies, which ones are really willing to throw out the opportunistic risk in cash for new technology? That is a tremendous investment in being a technology company. these companies are moving, and I say all equipment companies in this when I'm putting them in this hat, are moving from equipment companies into technology companies with sensors and writing code, and they're all trying to figure out how to do it. This is a tremendous investment, and they're all trying to figure out how to do it. And it's going to be very challenging for a small new equipment company to take that on and try to make that happen, especially in the world where our consumer, and no different than you referenced in your book, Food Fear, where we're talking about consumers that are very conscious of how things are grown, how things are produced. And I think that's the message that has to really come out more is look at how much more efficient, look at how much more effective we are in what's been created and the advancements that not only we are capitalizing on here in America, but what we have given to South America and what we've given to all these other countries because we're competing in a world economy, right?
What about, I agree. Now, let's talk about autonomous machinery. Sometimes old dogs don't learn new tricks very well.
That's for sure.
I saw the first go around from Case and from John Deere, and they looked like they took a 75-year-old engineer and said, "Hey, make this tractor autonomous." And he went and cut the cab off.
He
and
actually
said,
went and
it.
watched the Jetsons first, and then
right. And then DOT, that our buddy Rob Syke was involved with. I believe that, and I'm going to talk about it here with your people today, I believe the future looks a lot more like that. Does that favor a Tesla coming in? In other words, we know Case, New Holland, and John Deere and AGCO control the large tractor industry. Really, they do, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Is there room for a Tesla to bump in
I think there is.
from an autonomous machinery thing?
Absolutely, and I think that's the way that technology is today, is new technology. There's lots of opportunity to enter a market. A big company like a CNH, like a Fendt, a John Deere, they're too hard to steer. It's not agile. Where you could take a new company like a DOT or some unknown automation company today and enter the marketplace very inexpensively.
Yeah, so I think that also. All right, what did we not talk about today? And we talk about, because I think it's always fun to look forward, and you guys especially coming in from, it's harder, I think, for the kid that grew up out there on the machinery floor with Dad pushing his little toy tractor around and said, "Yep, I've been in the machinery business for 58 years." I think it's harder for him to actually look out 5 and 10 years and say, boom, folks like us that aren't really in it, we've been around it, and now you're in it. What do you see happening that a lot of folks in the industry maybe even don't?
Yeah, well, without a doubt, within the equipment business, we're going to continue to see consolidation. There will be less mom and pop dealers.
Yeah, now the one thing is that gives a lot more power to the dealers. Hudson has more power. When it was A&H Implement down the hill from my farm, the one little John Deere dealer there in Huntington, Indiana, they couldn't go to John Deere and say, "Hey, you know what? Here's how you're going to do things," because they'd say, "Who the hell are you?" When you're talking about ownership that controls, dealerships in 6, 5, 15 states, all of a sudden there's a little more power on your end.
Absolutely.
Is that a good thing?
It is a good thing.
Is it a good thing for the customer?
It is. It's the best thing for the customer.
Because the customer now says, "Hey, John Deere used to push me around, but now I got Hudson fighting for my side."
You have somebody to push back. That's exactly right. And Hudson has grown to the point that Hudson carries a pretty big stick, and we actually can get responses from John Deere. And it's not just about equipment availability or the sales side. It's about my whatever won't work, and we can get answers. We can get support from John Deere to make things work.
Right, because you're not an instrument. And Carl, speaking of big sticks, do you think that is created a level of arrogance where Carl was sort of smart mouthing me a little bit ago, where it looked like it was going to get physical? It looked like it was going to get physical. It's just the arrogance. Anyway,
you
Carl,
didn't feel that threatened. Come on now.
I'm easily intimidated.
He's like a foot taller than me if you're listening to this.
All right. So anyway, go ahead. I'm the youngest of 9 kids. I've been fighting since I was little. I don't scare easily. Okay, so what do you think when you look at that future thing? Because I think it's fun for you've only been in the industry for 10 or 11 years, meaning you came from a different aspect of agriculture. What are you seeing that maybe some of your peers that have been doing this for their entire career aren't seeing? What are you seeing that they might be seeing?
So I'd start here. First and foremost, I think a lot of farmer customers today, pride themselves on their ability to go into their shop and find a specific tool, right? And they view that as the most efficient way to run their business if something's broke down, right? In my opinion, they're going to have to be the exact same way with software. They're going to have to be able to log into software, find that as applied data, that spray map, that harvest data from whatever year, whatever field, whatever pass, and be able to make an effective decision or solution from that pretty quickly. So it's having the person or creating the skill set within that person to be able to manage data, to be able to make effective decisions that are timely. Not something that I'll look at this in the winter. It's in real time.
Let me also go with this one. Two things, and then we're going to wrap it up. We're going a little long, but this is great stuff because it's the future, and this is, and farmers love equipment. That's the other thing. We got the Louisville Machinery Show. You almost, it reminds me of those farmers. Remind me of little children at Christmas time. They're just walking around with their tongue hanging out. They're just that excited.
That's right.
Part of the other aspect of the Biden administration's anti-competitive was, if all things, it brought up about farmers being allowed to fix their own equipment. And I thought, good God, is that really something that we're talking about inside the White House? Talk to me about that, Carl. It's technology.
Yeah, I think that, and I know, Hudson totally believes that, farmers should have the ability to fix, the right to repair. We have no issue with anybody fixing their own piece of machinery, and we'll offer parts and support for that. Have a support center line that you can call in at 1-844-HUDSONS, and we'll support you to the best of our ability in any way we can. The only thing in this that should be considered and should be brought up is when you try to hack your iPhone. Now that's a problem,
right?
But now when you want to hack into your Gen 4 display or your 2630,
right?
That all of a sudden that should be allowed. And I think there are certain safety concerns in my mind around that. Now that's apart from Hudson. That's apart from everything else. That's just my belief around being around the display. Because when you call into the support center now, and I don't know that you've done that. Now that opens a whole new can of worms for the advice that we have to give you, given that we don't know what you've done in there, and you may not even know what you've done in there, right? So overall, and 100%, fix everything you can possibly fix, and we want to support you in that venture to do so.
Brings me to my last... go ahead. I'm sorry, Carl.
No, sorry. Somebody's at the door there.
Carl, we'll have you pass the microphone over to our man, Matt. This brings me to my last topic. There are folks that discuss the future of everything and say, you're not going to own anything in the future and you're going to like it. Now, I that goes against my very core as a farm owner, property owner, and also youngest of 9 kids. I don't like sharing. I like my own stuff. But let's talk about the subscription mindset. There are car companies that, they did leases. Yeah, after 3 years, get rid of it, get something different. Now they're talking about, hey, you can have a subscription. Essentially, you want to drive this model for the next 3 months, then go to the next thing. Is that going to happen in tractors and combines and farm machinery? Because it's a lot of expensive stuff sitting in the tool sheds of America's farms. Will it get to where you don't really own it? You just subscribe to it?
Yeah, I can't imagine that.
Have you heard this before I brought it up?
So that's something
Am I at the cutting
have
edge?
Heard this. No, I have heard this before.
Yes, I am at the cutting edge, damn it.
You are, yes. I didn't say no to cutting edge, but yes, I have heard of this. But this is not something that I can ever imagine happening in my lifetime. And I think it is almost...
Tax implications, Carl says, is part of it.
Yeah,
because you're talking about huge amounts of capital expenditure, but then they could change the capital. They could change the law on that. Go ahead. What else?
And then just farm equity. I mean, we basically pride ourselves on producing a crop, not with cash, but with equity. That is borrowing power. So it's kind of like saying a subscription to land. There is no difference. It's all inputs, no matter if it's anhydrous ammonia, liquid nitrogen, land, or equipment. They are all inputs. And so building equity in those inputs is critical to the future. Go ahead.
Yeah, last thought on that, subscriptions versus... Because, the argument can be made, like right now, there's young kids that when I was 16, I wanted my driver's license so badly I could taste it. So I could get in an old car. I got in the farm truck and drove all the time when I was 14 anyway, but finally I could go into town legally. There's 19-year-olds that don't have a driver's license. Oh, well, I'll just take an Uber. So there are some things that are changing. And there's people that I know, they're 25. It's like, well, do you have a car? No. Like, how do you get around? Does that mindset come to the 25-year-old farm guy that says, we don't need to own all that stuff? Grandpa always thought we needed to own all that, but I think we just subscribe to it. I'm just trying to think, does this happen?
Yeah, so I think there's no question that the equity position of younger farmers, is something that's challenging, right? Do they pay for horsepower? Do they pay for hours on machines and things like that to try to help offset some of the costs? And and I believe that's probably a healthier route to go. If you're going to pay for an annual subscription on anything, it should be your activations and things like that.
Activations,
right? Just so that way.
What's that mean?
So the software that's on the display that helps you with your guidance.
Okay.
Just to be very general.
So rent that stuff rather than own it.
That's right, because year over year, there's always additions to it. There's always upgrades. If you look at how many notifications you get pushed from your iPhone manufacturer or from your whatever platform.
But you think the equipment itself is still going to be owned in the next foreseeable future? We're not going to get to where it's just fleets of unowned stuff.
I agree with that 100%. I think that that's not to say that younger or some farmers that are in a the equity position or only need a certain piece of equipment for a period of time couldn't pay for their hour usage on it. But in mass general, I believe the healthiest thing to do is to own the piece or to lease the piece. There's no question.
Last thought on that or anything else, Matt, and then we're going to wrap it up here because we went a little long, but you know what? Again, when you talk about machinery, everybody, and I'm not even really a true farmer, but I love my Kubota 50-horse tractor. And by the way, that whole thing, they don't make them like they used to. Bullshit. They make them better. My Kubota 50-horse tractor is 10 times the machine that I was raised operating growing up there on that dairy farm.
So I agree. Kubota, great competitor, great product, but I think it's un-American. They have Kubota.
It explains a lot, Damian.
It does.
It explains
says
a lot
about you.
Yeah.
Maybe my friends with John Deere could work something out for me.
I think we could probably work something
out. All right,
out.
go ahead.
But I think the most amazing thing that we have talked about just in this recap of where we're at today in 2021 is we've talked about words like mainstreaming, early adopters, and all this comes back to this bell curve that is, the adoption of technology. And it's something that exists in our lives every day. We don't exist without some piece of technology in our pockets. Right. And it's affecting every single aspect of our life, and our food supply, of all things, is being affected by technology.
Yep. Last thought here, my friend Carl.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind commenting on that. So, the simple fact of it is that my phone and my watch and my iPad know not only my heart rate, but my general activity during the day. And when I get up and leave this building, they're going to give me directions to what it believes is my next destination. And so as we start thinking about what's coming next and the value in having like equipment of a sprayer, combine and planter, and the smart technology that they're going to gain from one another, not just as far as the planter saying, hey, my ride quality suffered through this area, and telling the sprayer, hey, you might want to increase your rate or something like that through this area in case we have a stand issue or whatever it might be. That's what's coming next for us very quickly. And so it backs into what Matt is saying, what we started here with mainstreaming. The only way that a dealer is going to be able to support this is through a dealer that has been really well virtued in regards to helping the technician understand how to fix it, helping the salesperson understand what they're selling and value of it, but overall, less moving away from a product and understanding the solution that's coming and the offering.
Yeah, it's the whole. You're essentially saying this industry changes from it used to be we got a guy that can come out and change your oil and make sure that the gaskets don't leak to now we're 9 layers beyond that. Really, the gaskets don't leak and the engine's fine. We got that part handled. Now it's going to be about the stuff inside the cab and the data and the efficiencies and all that. Yeah,
the 40/20 never told you how good your operator was.
Right. Got it. All right. His name is Carl Hubner. Despite about the mid part of the podcast when he got very disagreeable, I have a feeling he's one of those millennial kids. And so this one happens. And then my man, Matt Ramage. Matt is the VP of Sales there at Hudson. What else, Carl? Go ahead. I'll let you get last word in.
No, it's fine. I just can't get over how much hair gel you use.
Oh, man. See? And so if you're a listener and not a viewer, now that's right there. If you're saying, wait a minute, I've never actually watched this guy's hair gel. So go on the Damian Mason channel on YouTube and hit subscribe, and you can see all my stuff, hair gel and all. His name is Matt Ramage, VP of Sales for Hudson. His name's Carl Huber. He's in charge of Precision there at Hudson. If they want to find you because they say, hey, that was a really good podcast, and also I want to know one little question or I have a question for you, how do they find you?
Yeah, website, you can hit me at khubner at hudsoninc.com or
And the website is Hudson with a T, not a D.
Yes,
Hudson's the river with a D, but Hudson, the dealership, is a HUTSON, and they find you Hudson.
Yep, hudsoninc.com, and you can find us there. 18 locations in Michigan, 12 in the South. And last thing I would like to say.
Oh, by the way, they said that I kept saying 14 dealerships. That's because they just are acquiring all the ones up north. So this is a company that's getting bigger by the minute.
That's right. I did really enjoy your book, Food Fear. I just wanted to throw that out there and let you know. I'm not the huge fan of books along those lines, but did listen to it in the truck with all my driving and everything, and I think it's fantastic for people that have a general to not a great knowledge of agriculture or family that don't. It's a great way to cover a lot of ground quickly and bring them up to speed on the rumors, the myths, and the lies, and the smoke screens and mirrors of agriculture. So
I really appreciate
you did a great job.
I appreciate you saying that. We're friends after all. His name's Matt. His name is Carl. My name's Damian Mason. Thank you very much. Till next time, it's the Business of Agriculture.
Thank you for tuning into the Business of Agriculture podcast, sponsored by Land Trust. Land Trust partners with farmers and ranchers to capture pure profit from sportsmen seeking new experiences and places to hunt and fish. Land Trust built the platform and does the marketing. You maintain 100% control of access and activities, and you set the rules. There's no cost or obligation when you list, and the next 10 Business of Agriculture listeners who go to landtrust.com/BOA are eligible for a gift worth over $2,000.